Yesterday Sarah explained the second cause of liberation and its obstacles, niyana and avarana. Today we will go on to the third pair of niyana and avarana, and if time permits we will continue to talk about other pairs of niyana and avarana. That niyana is aloka sanya. This is the aloka means light or illumination, and sanya means perception or remembering or paying attention to. In other words, one looks at the light or illumination, or seeing the illumination, perceiving the illumination, and this is niyana, cause of liberation. And the one which opposes it or obstructs this is tina meda, which is niyana varana, obstacle or obstruction to liberation. And as you may already know, this tina meda is dullness or heaviness of the mind, or in simple language, laziness. And this is niyana varana, an obstacle or stumbling block to the path of liberation. The ordinary meaning of aloka sanya, as given as perception of the light or perceiving the illumination, but in the realm of satipatthana practice, as much as one looks at or pay attention to the light as an object for tranquility practice, samatha, in satipatthana it is noting brightly, or noting to illuminate, or noting precisely and to be obvious, noting obviously and noting precisely. In the text is given this aloka sanya, ariyana niyana, that is, the perception of light is the cause for the liberation of the noble ones, the pure and sublime individuals, or noting or sustaining one's mindfulness, illuminating the object is the cause for the liberation of the noble ones. And this aloka sanya, therefore, is given as the path for the liberation of the noble ones, ariyas. And the obstacle, the obstruction, is tina meda, stiffness and torpor, or sloth and torpor, which is given in the text as niyana varana. It is an obstacle to liberation. Stiffness and torpor, or sloth and torpor, or laziness is an obstacle to liberation. The reason is because the tina meda blocks or hinders the perception of light or understanding of the practice of mindfulness to illuminate the object. Therefore, the text is given tina meda as niyana varana, obstacle to liberation. As for aloka of aloka sanya, it is given as light or illumination. The ordinary natural illuminations or lights are the light from the sun, the light from the moon, stars and so on. These are the natural lights, and that also will include electric lights in the modern terms. Especially during the practice, when one is purified of mental impurities, cleansed of mental impurities, one's mind will become bright, serene, pure, especially when one reaches the insight stage of the fleeting momentary nature of experience, udaya abhaya jnana. One is bound to experience this aloka sanya as a power with the power of Bhavana, meditative mind. And by looking at or trying to take upon one's mind, take into one's mind the light or illumination, or letting the light illumine one's mind, this is aloka sanya, perception of light, in the sense of the practice of satipatthana. So even if one does not look at the light purposely, this light has certain powers. It overcomes darkness. When it is dark, the mind becomes dull and not fresh. One will become disheartened, discouraged, depressed when it is dark, and becomes lazy. When there is light, which is the opposite of darkness, one's mind will become bright, fresh and open. Therefore, the light is said to have these qualities. And if one looks at them, one is bound to realize the benefits, which is in addition to the mental powers already being established, so that the mind will become more and more open and fresh. And during the practice there will be no dullness of the mind, no sluggishness, no laziness, and there will be only alertness, wakefulness and activity. During the Buddha's time, there was this chief disciple, Moggallana, elder Moggallana, when he was practicing for higher knowledge, path and fruition knowledge. After he has attained the first path, Sotapanna or Sotapatimagga, he felt very dull, lazy, sluggish, withdrawn, and he tended to doze off, nod off. So the Buddha had to go to him by himself. The Buddha himself had to go to him and encourage him with the 7 methods to overcome this sloth and torpor, or sluggishness, or sleepiness. And in these 7 methods, there was this one method, namely aloka sanya, perception of light, or seeing the light, illuminating the object, noting to illuminate the object, or noting to make the object obvious, or to note the obvious object. So in this way, the Buddha had to give him instructions. So following these instructions, Elder Moggallana was able to overcome this sluggishness, sloth and torpor, and was able to advance to higher insight knowledge until he was able to realize the full holiness, arahant. And so powerful is this aloka sanya. By noting or reflecting this light or illumination, one can overcome the Tinameda, sloth and torpor, or stiffness and torpor, which is the cause for sleepiness, laziness, or dullness. So this dullness or sluggishness is overcome by aloka sanya, perception of light, and one should overcome it and develop this vipassana panya, insight, wisdom, because with this one can realize the peace of Nibbana eventually and be able to be liberated from the round of suffering. Aloka sanya is given as the cause for the liberation of the noble ones. And when one is noting the psychophysical phenomena, mind, body, objects, if one can sustain one's mindfulness on the obvious object, prominent and predominant object, and this is aloka sanya in the realm of satipatthana, way of mindfulness. So when one is noting the object which is made obvious, then one will be able to overcome or free oneself from Tina Meda, which is a cause of sleepiness, sluggishness, dullness. When you say one notes making or causing the object to be obvious or to be illumined, this is not with ordinary mindfulness. One has got to apply full mental energies. There are two kinds of mental energy, namely Vitakka and Virya. Vitakka means aiming, focusing on the object of observation, aiming one's attention, noting mind, to the object of observation, so that eventually one will strike with pinpoint precision. This is the objective. So this is a jhanic factor. This Vitakka or aiming is a jhanic factor. That means a factor of jhana, a factor of one-pointedness. As for the second mental energy, namely virya, this means diligence, alertness, activeness, and wakefulness. So these two mental energies are important in order to overcome Tina Meda, stiffness, and torpor. In the text is given this Vitakka as opening or making fresh or spreading a dull, contracted mind, making it fresh and alert and open. And it has the power of spreading the contracted mind. When the mind is dull, overcome by sloth and torpor, one's mind is said to have contracted. Now this Vitakka tends to spread it out so that it becomes open and fresh. It is correct. When one is aiming one's noting mind towards the object precisely, then initially one may not be fresh, but when one aims one's noting mind towards the object correctly, then the mind will become fresh and open and hot, so to speak. And this is how we can, the Tina Meda opposes, or Saloka Sanya opposes Tina Meda. Aloka Sanya is the direct antagonist of Tina Meda, and this is very important. Furthermore, if one is not alert nor wakeful, then one will not be diligent, one will not be active, one will not be alert, one will not be able to note with diligence and alertness, wakefulness. So one has got to make it alert. One has got to be alert, wakeful, and diligent, and hot. Hot means you must be energetic. So then the mind will become fresh and alert. Then only one will be able to note the arising object precisely, consistently. So there are these two mental powers, namely Vitakka, aiming, to aim the noting mind towards the arising object, to be precise. And Virya, the power of, the driving power, the push, driving one's noting mind towards the object of observation, so that it also becomes precise. The result is that there will be this rubbing of the object. The rubbing aspect of mindfulness will become obvious. Rubbing or striking with pinpoint precision. This is again another factor of one-pointedness, jhana. So in this way, the mind will be free from dullness, it will open up and become fresh, and will be able to overcome Tina Meda, stiffness and torpor. And this is how one refreshes or one brightens one's noted object of observation, noting the object, making it bright and obvious. This is when some people are practicing meditation, they have been so much used to comfortable and luxurious life, they would make their body comfortable and luxurious. When they are sitting, they want to make their body comfortable so that they do not tend to exert energy. And initially also they have been conditioned to comfortable life, and they are afraid of harming their body, or they do not want to be painful, they do not want to endure suffering, physical suffering, so they would not exert energy. So when they are noting this rising and falling, they would just label it as rising and falling without any application of this power of aiming, so that the mind gets dull very soon, and the mind gets contracted, and sloth and torpor sets in, and then one will nod off. One will go on and nodding and bending and hitting the floor. Therefore, it is necessary to make the mindfulness bright and wakeful and diligent with the application of two mental energies. They are very important. With the luxurious way of practice, one will not be able to achieve the purpose. As has been said earlier on, if one exerts the two kinds of energies, applies two kinds of energies, one is bound to be able to note the object of attention effectively, precisely, consistently, and will see it properly, precisely. At this stage, one practices day in and day out, night in, night out. One will not be sleepy. There will be no tina maida, sloth and torpor, and the mind will always be serene and bright. Excuse me. Even if one leaves the retreat and goes to bed, tries to go to bed, one will not be able to crash out, sleep. So every time one notes this object of observation, the mindfulness will automatically arise without effortlessly. Effortlessly one will be able to note these objects, or the mindfulness will automatically arise by itself without one's purposeful effort. So the noting to illumine, or noting brightly, obviously or precisely, is mind and body objects, which is aloka sanya in the sense of this satipatthana, can overcome sloth and torpor, tina maida, and be able to embark on the series of insight knowledge until one is able to realize the path knowledge, path and fruition knowledge of the noble ones. Hence, it is a cause for liberation. One will be able to be liberated from the rounds of suffering. Therefore, noting precisely, effectively, the object of observation in the practice of the way of mindfulness is the cause, jnana, for the liberation of the noble ones from the rounds of suffering. Doing this tina maida, which is the cause for sleepiness, sluggishness, one in trying to materialize this aloka sanya perception of light, there are two methods. The first one is seeing the light and overcome sleepiness, or noting the light, or noting the illumination and overcome. Secondly, in the realm of vipassana, insight knowledge, noting the immediately arising object of observation to illumine the object, or to note freshly, precisely, applying these two mental factors, namely aiming and energy, or with energetic aim. By applying these two mental factors, or you can apply one of these two methods, seeing the light or illumination. That's the first one. Or noting with the application of these two mental powers, energetic aim or energy and aiming, one will be able to overcome this Tina Meda Sloth Torpor, which is the cause for sleepiness, sluggishness, dullness. The dullness, which is the cause of sleepiness, also can be called Tina Meda, stiffness and torpor. And there is another kind of stiffness and torpor that is in the practice of this high-level discipline of the way of mindfulness. One is sluggish, or one is hesitant to note every arising object, not to lose one's mindfulness. This also is Tina Meda, sloth and torpor, or stiffness and torpor. In this way, stiffness and torpor hinders aloka sanya, perception of light. Hence the name Niyana Varana cause the obstacle to liberation. So if one has got to see that this doesn't arise, that is the Tina Meda doesn't arise, and in order to achieve that purpose, one has got to exert full energy. And if it has arisen, one has got to note and overcome, noting precisely with the application of these two mental powers, illumining the object, brightening the object, note continuously in order to overcome this stiffness and torpor. When one is practicing this high-level discipline of the way of mindfulness, in order to ennoble the mind and cultivate knowledge, it is very necessary to be alert, diligent, and wakeful. And in order to achieve that, Buddha has said one word, namely Adandito, that is without sluggishness, without laziness. One should practice without laziness, without sloth and torpor. Now, if one nod off with sluggishness, Tina Meda, and to overcome that, this also is given as Adandito. And another rendering is that some of the people do not want to do anything at all. The first thing is, during the practice, one nods off. One nods and sleepy, that is Adandito. And as for others, they do not want to do anything at all. They are at a loss to do anything. This also is Adandito. This, to counteract this, also is Adandito. So whenever there is a chance, if there is this practice of high-level discipline in order to ennoble one's mind and cultivate knowledge, this sluggishness is an enormous obstacle, the nearest internal enemy. If one is lazy, indolent, one will not wish to practice this mind development, that is bhavana, meditation to develop the mind. Even if one undertakes the practice, one will not be able to do it effectively, diligently, and with alertness and activity, in order to realize concentration and knowledge in a remarkable manner. Therefore, it hinders the practice, it hinders the path, it is an obstacle to the path, so it obstructs the course for liberation. So in order to overcome that, this expression Adandito was said by the enlightened one. So being conditioned to luxurious life, when people undertake this practice, this is the nearest enemy, that is sloth and torpor. It will oppress such yogis who have been addicted to luxurious life. And if such people practice 15 days or 1 month or 2 months, there will be no remarkable difference in the practice, no remarkable progress in the practice. And in the meantime, during the course of the practice. If such a person is lazy, then it will be worse. In order to understand Thina-Middha better, it has been given in the text these qualities of Thina, the natural characteristic given as Anusaha, that means not wishing to exert energy, not wishing to lack of driving power. When one is faced with unbearable or difficult situations, one tends to shrink from this, from the practice, from this difficult or unbearable situation, and one is not able to face it. And also, one is scared to face it. Before one is facing, prior to this, one is afraid that this unbearable situation may arise. So one is already afraid before the actual situation arises. And when the actual difficulty arises, one cannot practice, or one cannot exert energy, driving power with grim teeth. The mind tends to shrink and contract. Fear is synonymous with withdrawal, of contraction, shrinkage. Therefore, there is no driving power, lacking driving power, one will not wish to exert energy. When this sets in, the mind becomes lacks slackness of mind, and the mind tends to settle back, settle down, not rise up. It will go down, it will degenerate, and it will not be fresh, it will be contracted, and this is simply put as laziness. In this way, the mind becomes very weak, and Thina weakens the mind when it overwhelms the yogis. Because the mind lacks energy, one will not be able to sustain one's posture. Then the result is one will not bend forward and so on. So Thina-Middha tends to weaken one's mind, cause one to nod. And when one is nodding, this is a sign of Thina, stiffness, sloth. When Thina-Middha sets in, the mind tends to oppress the yogis, weakens the mind of the yogis, contracts the mind, and withdraws the mind, so that the mind will not have any power of resistance, power of stamina, lacking stamina, and laziness sets in. And the mind will not spread, instead it will shrink. It will adhere, congeal, cohese, and slimy. Just like when you cool the butter, it will congeal, becomes coarse and not fluid, not free-flowing. Therefore, when you go and say something or remind somebody who is dozing, he or she will become angry, will feel angry, because the mind has become very coarse and gross and rough. Just like when the butter is cooled, it becomes rough, not fluid, and not free-flowing. So the mind will not be free-flowing. The mind is said to become rough and gross. So such are the qualities described in the text. So you want to apply this use as butter when it is so solidified and congealed. And in order to make it free-flowing, one has to apply heat to the butter. If one wishes to use this quickly, then if you apply heat, the butter will melt and become free-flowing. It will flow freely. and becomes a liquid. So also, when the mind has congealed and adhered and cohesed, as with the Thinameda, the nature of Thinameda setting in, if one wishes to melt this mind, solid, want to make it free-flowing, make it not cohesive, not slimy, then one has got to apply energy, heroic effort, virya. In this case it is known as Adaba Lunavariya, ardent energy. Ardent energy is like applying heat to the butter. So if you apply ardent energy, the mind, the solidified mind, will melt and become free-flowing, and so will be able to sustain one's mindfulness about the even minute details. One will become alert and wakeful to note minute details. Therefore, this Thinameda also will not set in, and also Thinameda will not have a chance to enter one stream of consciousness. There will be no solidification or cohesion, sliminess of the mind. As for Meda, it is a state of suspended powers. That means one is exhausted. There's no more ability, no more vigor left in oneself. One has spent up all energy. One becomes wearied and unwieldy, unmanageable. Sleepiness sets in, and one, in doing anything, one will not be able to exert energy. There is no mental powers. All mental powers are said to have exhausted. So this is the situation of Meda, the condition of Meda, as the suspended state of suspended powers of Cetasikas, that is consciousness concomitants. This is Meda, and Meda therefore is state of suspended powers, exhaustion of energy, and unwieldiness. As for Thina, the lack of driving power, and Meda is the suspended powers, mental powers. So this is how it has been given in the text. Whoever understanding the benefits of the way of mindfulness, Satipatthana, whoever has full faith and confidence in the practice, and whoever has strong zeal to realize these benefits, will not find any difficulty to possess this quality of Atapa Lunaviriya, ardent energy. Even from the beginning, such yogis will be able to possess this Atapa Lunaviriya, ardent energy. Applying energy, exerting energy constantly, continuously, not to miss one's mindfulness, noting every arising object, giving the heat, so to speak, or with the application of ardent energy, with the application of heat, with heroic effort, so that Thinameda will not set in such practitioners. Even if Thinameda sets in, they will not find any difficulty in noting and overcome very soon. So this is the power of Alokasanya. With Alokasanya, perception of light, one can note the object of observation without losing one's mindfulness, making the object bright and clear, and be able to note with diligence and effectively, precisely, every time object arises. Very soon such yogis will be able to cultivate concentration and knowledge in a remarkable manner, and Sarah wishes that yogis be able to cultivate and to realize these benefits. That's all for today. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.